And gentlemen, today I'm bringing you a little farming method that I've come up with. So far in the demo, we've only been allowed to have the 10 legendary items that have been dropping for just the demo. And out of the 10 legendaries, I've been able to figure out approximately my experience has been, what items tend to drop the most common in the legendaries. I also have an easier way to be able to farm the captain that everybody seems to be taking out right now, and the fastest loadout that I've come up with to be able to take down those. I've also got a little bit of information based on how these mods are going to come together and the best methods that I think that will work for what we currently have available, and a couple of the items that are still in the main game that I think would blend over really well with what we currently have available to us, or that will be available to us when the game launches. As you can see, I've managed to actually come up with quite a few legendaries. Yes, I've been wasting a whole lot of time doing this stupid thing over and over and over again. But, however, what I've come up with right now is that so the first legendary, let's start with I had legendaries that dropped first. The first one that I had drop was at level 7. I got this one to drop. The second one that I had to drop was this item here. Now, this item has a couple of mods on it. One of them is Judgment Enforcer. The Judgment Enforcer mod gives it so that 5 times the weapon damage is dealt to the targets that you have marked when you reload or if you run out of ammo. One of the ones that I've found so far has been this shotgun right here. Now, this shotgun only has a 3 clip size, does 178 damage, and the reload speed is 1.6. That's what kind of determines the total amount of damage that's going to be done on a weapon. Now, if you have a weapon that's like this, because of the clip size being so low and the reload speed being a little higher, the damage on the weapon is going to obviously have to be larger to compete with the rest of the weapons as far as damage per second goes, which makes this one at 178 damage. Now, you can see where I'm going with this. Getting rid of the critical point ones on the bottom, because you're only allowed to change one mod on the weapon, and adding a mod like this where you have Judgment Enforcer, you can see where that goes. It's 5 times the weapon damage, so 5 times 178 damage. That's a lot of damage every time you reload, and this thing reloads relatively quickly. So adding those two things together, I mean, the first mod, having the slowdown in the rift time is not really that big of a deal, but having a very large damage point on it and having that 5 times damage done to it is where the key is on this. Now, what I've noticed on it is that, using this weapon in general, is that when you're spraying a large area and you're hitting targets at very far range, like way past the 25-meter range that is showing on the weapon, it sometimes will do like 1 or 2 damage if the target's far enough across the map. However, when you reload, that 5 times damage still applies. This weapon has a large spray that it does, so you can pepper a very large group of guys and reload relatively quick. When you have a mod like this on it, then you're looking at doing that 178 times 5, even if you're doing 1 damage to a target all the way down across range. Now, this could also be used for a very big boss killer where you're dumping large rounds to it because you're doing, 178 3 times, but then when you're reloading, you're putting 5 times that damage on the target, and that you're still doing damage while you're reloading. So you infinitely skyrocket the amount of damage that you're overall doing. Other mods that I found that would be really useful, there's a weapon called Absolute Zero that's in the main game. That weapon has its tier 3 perk to be able to freeze targets when you're shooting. And the Icebreaker the Iceberg has a mod called Icebreaker on it, which makes it so they explode, dealing 229 damage. Now, it doesn't include how large that explosion is. It's hard to figure out what that is because most of the time when you're using a sniper rifle, you're killing the target in one shot anyways. And since it doesn't really list it on there, I don't know how big the explosion itself is, but you can see where I'm going with that as well. When you're shooting targets and you're freezing them with an automatic assault rifle and they're exploding, dealing 229 damage, it would be a very good way to clear like trash mobs. And I'm assuming, as the game goes further along in its process and when it gets released as a full content, then you're going to look at probably a lot more mods that are going to make more sense. I don't know. Stuff like this, I have a feeling this is going to get nerfed instantaneously because that's ridiculous. That's a lot of damage. You'd be taking down bosses so quickly that it would be almost a joke. However, if you want to figure out how to farm these items in the best way that I found to do it, I use a Technomancer, and the loadout that I use the shrapnel grenades, I use the blighted rounds, and I use the artillery. And the reason why I use those 3 is that technically in the farming part of things, I only use 2 of the abilities. I only use the launcher and the shrapnel grenades. And this is kind of what I've come up with to be able to kill these guys as quickly as possible. Launch into the wall, all the targets will hit the wall, explode, 33 grenades on the ground, boss is down, collect items, rinse and repeat. you have any questions about how I'm putting out my loadout or any other questions regarding the game, please by all means leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will try to respond to you as soon as possible. But please, good luck hunting, and y'all have a good day.